Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
We're so pleased to have back on the show multi-platinum rock and blues guitarist, singer, songwriter. He does it all. Kenny Wayne Shepherd. Thanks for coming back on the show, Kenny.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You know, it's been a while since we've talked, man, but you got this brand new album that came out this past November. A little bit different than what you've done in the past. Dirt on My Diamonds, Volume 1. I think this, you know, you've got horns on here. You've got a funky bass. I think in the one song I heard album scratching.
Yeah.
It's like going, this is kind of a departure from the typical Kenny Wayne Shepherd album.
Well, yes and no. I mean, if you look back historically over the 3 decades that I've been lucky enough to do this,
right,
I mean, you'll see that my goal and my approach has always been to take blues as the foundation of my music and to push it in new and different directions, whether that's rock or a little bit of funk here and there, even a little bit of country vibe, you know, and in this case, the little record scratch, maybe a little hip hop influence, but, you know, to try and make it sound current, make it sound different, do something that sounds fresh and original. And every album of mine, you know, that's the common thread, is the blues foundation. But, you know, the thing is every record stands on its own and everyone has its own personality. And the thing is, as an artist, I don't want people to feel that I'm repetitive or that every time I put a record out, they know exactly what it's going to sound like before it comes out. You know, this keeps everybody interested in what we're doing.
Well, I think this is going to keep everybody very interested. And obviously, this album is already doing very well for you. But, you know, what I thought was great, you know, with the sharing of vocals with your co-vocalist, Noah, also, you still got, you know, your foundation band, especially with Chris Whipper-Layton, you know, and so, you know, and like you said, too, it's, you know, Dirt on My Diamonds, certainly a very drive-in blues song, but then Sweet and Low, a totally different take, you know. And so like all the songs, and like you said too, I can't remember the track now, listening to the entire album, but you had one that kind of gave a nod to country.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And, you know, I grew up listening to all this stuff. I grew up listening to country music. I grew up listening to blues, Southern rock, gospel, funk music. James Brown was like my uncle, you know, he was a family friend. I mean, all of this stuff I grew up listening to as a kid, and it finds its way into the music that I create. And it's very natural to me. Some people might be surprised by it, right? Because they're like, oh, he's the blues guy. And it's like, no, but this is all the stuff that I was soaking up as a kid, you know, and what was molding me into the artist that I have become.
You know, and I think it's so great too, Kenny, to be able to see that and hear that in your music, including the Elton John track. And I got to ask, you know, because I know you like to have fun with your band, and, you know, you guys tour relentlessly, sold out shows, but it's like, but how did you end up picking that song to cover with the band and kind of giving it the Kenny Wayne Shepherd flavor?
Well, Elton obviously is an incredible artist. I mean, the guy can sing and do just about anything. This is probably Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting is probably his most rock and roll song. And, you know, the guitar player that played all those awesome guitar parts, Davey Johnstone, is a friend of mine. And it was an opportunity for me to show my admiration both for him and for Elton as an artist, and do it on a song that I thought we could do a really great version of. And it's a pretty rocking version of it.
It really is. But, you know, it to me, though, you know, having seen you, you know, on tour, you know, and certainly back, you know, with the Jimi Hendrix experience, what you've done, and seeing you, you know, play solo, you know, in multiple venues across multiple states, it's like a lot of your songs usually give you a chance to kind of tear it up on guitar, which you are known for. This album, Dirt on My Diamonds, Volume 1, it seems a little more restrained for Kenny Wayne Shepherd.
Well, I think that there's definitely some searing guitar solos in certain songs, but not every song is an excuse for me to burn up the guitar. And I think that, you know, that approach has just come with years of doing this and a certain amount of maturity. And I think at a certain point, a right that I've earned, you know, in doing it so long, that I don't feel like every time I record a song or pick up a guitar that I have to prove myself, that I have to show everybody, look what I can do. It's like, you know, you get to the point where you write songs and you play what's appropriate for the song. And that might not always be the most impressive barn burning guitar solo, but it was the right thing for that song.
You know, and that's what I noticed on this album, especially, Kenny, to where it seems like, you know, you're serving the song, the lyrics and the songs. I mean, they just sound so fresh and new. But like you said, they've got the blues foundation, which you grew up on. But I mean, you look back to Ledbetter Heights, to that album and everything, and it seems like just a progression through the years. It's hard to believe, 30 years, because I remember when you hit the scene, man. It's like going, and it seems like yesterday, and now, in 2024, with this album that released in November, the big touring you're doing, it seems like an evolution of your music and just, like you said, the freedom to do what you want.
Yeah, and it has been an evolution, and but at different times throughout my career, I've taken different turns along the way. It's like, my fourth album was a straight up rock and roll record. There was like, not a whole lot of blues on that. And then we ended up following that up with a completely traditional blues project when we did the documentary 10 Days Out Blues from the Backroads and that whole record. And so over time, I've gone between, doing this contemporary stuff to like doing, straight ahead rock and roll, to going back and doing traditional blues and kind of everything in between. And I think that's one thing that my fans appreciate about me, is that I follow the inspiration wherever it leads me at the time. And thankfully, we have a fan base that's been with us and is continuing to grow, even 30 years in, of people who want to see me pursue that inspiration, because, they want to be surprised. And I think sometimes, with some people, you knock their socks off, and then some people are going, I'm not so sure about that one. But either way, they're curious to see where you wound up this time, because you're following that inspiration wherever it might lead you. And I think that's what it means to be an artist.
Well, and I think that's, showing your growth too, Kenny, to where, once again, starting out as a child prodigy guitar slinger, but then also coming into your own with your songwriting, with your vocals, with song composition. It's just, to me, especially on this album, with Dirt on My Diamonds, Volume 1, and I love the cover, Muscle Car, figures with you. You also love cars. It seems like, just song composition, there's more depth, there's more texture.
Yeah. Well, I mean, songs have always been important to me, even from day one. I mean, you look at my first single in 1995, Deja Voodoo. It was kind of like a blues song with a chorus. It's like I come from a radio background. My dad was a disc jockey and program director of the biggest radio stations in my hometown. So I grew up around radio stations and hit singles and things like that. And so it's like I've always had that mentality of, I want to write songs that tell stories. I want to write songs with substance. I want to have melodies. I want to have choruses that people sing along to. It's every bit as much about the lyric and the vocal as it is about the guitar, even though my band is a guitar-centric band, and it seems that that is the pivotal part of the band. Everything revolves around the guitar, but it actually doesn't. It revolves around the entire song, every single song.
And you can really tell that with every one of these songs on this album. But also, it paired you with your old producer for the third album together.
Yeah. So, well, what's interesting is so in the first several years of my career, I started working with Jerry Harrison. Like, first album was David Z, but on the second album, Trouble Is, and moving forward for several years, I was working with Jerry Harrison. Then when we did the Lay It On Down album, which I can't remember, that was 2013 maybe. That's when Marshall Altman and I hooked up here in Nashville. And, it was a time in my career, I'm like, I want to try something different. And I still love Jerry, and I'm actually still working on some other projects with Jerry. So it's not like I've abandoned working with him, but I felt like I got to get out of my comfort zone. I want to start writing songs with people that I've never written with before, even though what I'm doing is working great, because it's only when you get uncomfortable and outside your comfort zone that real growth starts to happen, And so I wanted to push myself outside the box and work with some new people. And Marshall and I got hooked up. And this is probably our fourth album together now. And there's another one, because this is Volume 1. So there will be a Dirt on My Diamonds Volume 2. We've already recorded it. It's already finished. So we're just trying to figure out when the right time is to release that. So it's been a great relationship, a really productive one with me and Marshall Altman, for sure.
Well, I've got to ask you too, Kenny, what was it like being down in Muscle Shoals, recording this album?
Well, Muscle Shoals is an amazing place. We went down there to write these songs, and knowing that it would have an effect on the music that we created, you know, because there's just that we went to Fame Recording Studios, which is like walking back in time. You go into that place and it's virtually unchanged from the days that the Stones and so many other people were making records down there. And so we knew the vibe would find its way into the music that we were going to write and record. So it was really great.
Yeah, it's so amazing with the history, you know, and recording down there. I've got to ask for the cover of this album too. Did you use one of your cars for the photography?
Yeah, so the cover is a 1970 Barracuda convertible, which was a bucket list car of mine. If you know anything about me, I'm a car guy and a guitar guy. Those are my two passions outside of my family. And that's been a car I've wanted for a long time. So we're in the process of building that one. I like to get the old cars, we strip them down, rebuild them up with modern technology, make them run like new and handle like a modern automobile. So that one's in the in between phase. It's in the project car phase, and it was really great representation of the title of the record, which is Dirt on My Dime. And so the message of that song is like embracing the flaws in things and seeing, you know, that we are flawed, and that's one of the things that makes every one of us unique, you know, and our shortcomings and our mistakes and our flaws are the things that ultimately we should experience the most growth from. And so that is the beginning of our best possible outcome if we choose to learn from that stuff. And that's what that whole song is about. You know, the world we live in with social media, everybody thinks they got to look this way. They got to put these filters on to make them look pretty and, you know, go vacation in this spot and take that photo in front of that cool thing to be great. But that none of that's true. And it's not even actually obtainable. Perfection is not obtainable. So we embrace the flaws. The car is the diamond in the rough on the cover. It's like, it's in the in-between phase. It's got scratches and it's halfway disassembled, but I know how great it's going to be in the end.
And so logically, then Volume 2 will show the completed restoration of the Barracuda.
Well, you would think so. We'll see. I haven't signed off on the artwork for that yet. And we got to get the car finished first. This has been the longest project car that I've ever been a part of.
It's just like a guitar project, though. You and I know, man. It's like, you know, it makes it all that much sweeter when you get it done.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And all the hard work pays off for sure.
Well, and I wanted to bring up too, you know, for our viewers that are going to be in the Nashville area, that you will be playing the Ryman Auditorium on February 24th.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. You know, we played there last year, sold the place out, had an incredible night. My whole family was there, my kids, everybody got to like be on that historic stage and, you know, just soak up the vibe of that building. And I love playing there, and we're looking forward to coming. I think there's maybe a few tickets left, but it's very close to being sold out. So if you want to come see us, which we certainly want you to come see us, you got to grab the tickets while there's still a few left. And we guarantee a lot of satisfied customers when the show's over. You know, the live performance is what we do best.
You know, like I said earlier, having seen you live multiple times, Kenny, you know, I just always enjoy personally the passion that you bring, you know, and particularly with you and your band, to where it's like, you know, there's just a passion. And like you said, you know, embracing the flaws, you know, which so many, you know, artists, unfortunately today, I feel like don't, you know, they go into the software and the Pro Tools and everything and want to fix everything. And, you know, it's like, and perfection to me is not the music that we grew up on.
Yeah, well, that's true. And, you know, they didn't have the luxury of trying to make it perfect, you know, because they didn't have Pro Tools. It was like, you know, you can only overdub on tape so many times before you start degrading the sound of the tape, you know. So it's like you had to embrace the flaws. You had to get it good enough for everybody to be happy with it. And, you know, I mean, that's what we do. It's like on my records, we capture the live performance because that's best represents what we do. And so you're going to hear some little flaws here and there. We don't try and make everything sound perfectly in time and perfectly in tune, because that's unrealistic too. You know, we want to keep it real. And I think the fans appreciate us for that.
Well, you know, and the tour schedule you guys have for this year is kind of ridiculous. I was going to ask, you know, back a few years ago when you played with the supergroup, The Rides, and in your spare time, you were doing also the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Yep. Any side projects this year, or is it only Kenny Wayne Shepherd Band?
Well, yeah, when we did The Rides, we came through and played the Ryman Auditorium with The Rides as well. That was for those that don't know, that was my side band that I had with Steven Stills from Crosby, Stills and Nash, and Barry Goldberg. And we put out 2 records and did 3 tours and had a blast. I just saw Steven recently. I mean, we want to get together. We want to play together. We'd love to do another album together. It's just a matter of, scheduling, and we're both very busy, but it's certainly possible. We're talking about maybe reviving the Experience Hendrix tour at some point this year. We've been in discussions about that, so we'll see what happens. But, we got a lot going on this year, and that's a great problem to have.
Well, speaking of a lot going on, then I've got to ask you for the final question. Any special guitars or gear going out on this year? Because I know you've only got one or two to choose from. So, you got to narrow it down. But on the guitars, pedals, amps, and everything, anything special going out this year?
Well, it depends on the set list, but I'm thinking about bringing back a couple of songs that we haven't played for a very long time. That would require me to bring out, this old dobro that I have and do a little bit of slide playing, which, I don't do very often, but for those songs, it's a requirement. So we may do that. And then, my most recent purchase that really makes me excited is my 1960 Les Paul Sunburst that I was on the hunt for one of those for 10 or 12 years. Very patient, very methodical, waited for the right guitar at the right time. Finally got that one. But we'll have, all the cool amps and all the cool old guitars will be out there on the road for all you gearheads. You come out, Dumble amplifiers, vintage Strats, vintage Les Pauls, all that kind of stuff. It'll be there.
Yeah, it's nice to see you putting it to use. Well, congratulations on the new album that just came out in November. Just so many great songs on here. Dirt on My Diamonds, Volume 1. I certainly suggest people add it to their entire playlist. Listen to all of the songs on here because every one is a gem. And then also, with the big tour you guys are playing at the Ryman Auditorium, February 24th, I want to make sure, Kenny, for our viewers, for your website, social media, keep up on your car restorations, where do they need to go?
Well, KennyWayneShepherd.net.com, like all those things, obviously. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Although, we have a decent following for sure, but, I'm not one of those social media people that posts like several times a day. I have to remind myself to do that stuff because, I'm busy. Like I got 6 kids, when I'm at home, I'm doing the family thing, it's like, so. But we do try and keep everybody, up to date on what's happening and, music and tour dates and things like that. So Instagram and Facebook is where our biggest presence is for social media. But, the website has all the tour dates and we're adding more on a daily basis as shows are announced. Obviously, what's up there now is not all we have for the rest of this year. We're going to be touring through October, November. So, keep checking back and come see us.
I was thinking too, Kenny Wayne, to where maybe they need to make a CUDA with your logo on it, like a Hot Wheel that is part of your merch now.
Yeah, well, actually, we're thinking about trying to figure out a way to put my logo on the car that we're building right now, where a good spot would be for that. So, yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff that can be done like that. We're working on it.
Can't go wrong with cars and guitars, right?
I know, that's the deal, man.
Well, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, thank you so much for joining us. We can't wait to see you live at the Ryman on February 24th and obviously across the country on this tour. We know you're hitting all the major cities. This album sounds so good. I can't wait to hear the next one, Volume 2. But I want our viewers to be sure and check out your new one, Dirt on My Diamonds, Volume 1. Kenny, thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me again.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.